So we're going to go into some paraphrasing problems. This, or not, and paraphrasing is kind of the place where people get dinged for plagiarism the most. So we're going to talk about problem area 1 for paraphrasing. So first, the idea here is kind of wording. We'll often like unintentionally misuse a source when we try to paraphrase, because a good paraphrase matches, it's about the style and the sentence structure. It's not just about switching the words out, so they're kind of different. One of the bad habits people often have is to right click on that word and pick a new synonym from the thesaurus, but they leave everything basically the same and just switch the words out, and that can get you dinged for plagiarism. Here are the 3 things that should be different: word choice, sentence structure, order of ideas. So not just switching some words out. You want it to match the style, be in a different order. Sorry. So a couple of tips. I always say if you can explain it to a 7-year-old, you understand it. So probably not like for your scholarly articles, a 7-year-old, but you get the idea. So a couple of tips is, one, like, you want to make sure you understand the material. Like if I just said, hey, what's this about? You could explain it to me. Write it without looking at it. A lot of times people have a really hard time paraphrasing because it is next to impossible to find a better way to say something, or even a different way to say something when you're staring at the quote. It's unbelievably difficult. It's so much easier if you can't see it. Like if you just try writing it without looking at it, and then just check it and make sure that it's close, that you added in all the points you were supposed to, and then cite it. So much easier. So here's an example of something that's too close. I'm not going to read you this whole passage because it's super boring. But I'm going to look at the first couple of sentences and you get the idea. I've changed the color of the text so you can see where they switched out a couple of phrases or words. The rise of industry, the growth of cities, and the expansion of the population were the 3 great developments of late 19th century American history. The increase of industry, growth of cities, and the explosion of the population were 3 large factors of 19th century America. Okay, I want to make 2 points. 1, you can see how everything's pretty much the same. They just switched out words. 2, this one sounds horrible compared to the original, and that's typically what happens. They often, in the original, they picked the best words to use, and you're picking second best when you're just switching them out, or third best, or even things that don't really make exactly the same, mean the same thing. So it might even seem like it doesn't quite fit what you've chosen to switch it out for. So be really careful about that, because the rewording, when you do it this way and just switch out phrases, it never sounds as good as the original. It always sounds sort of forced. And here's another example of something too close. I'm going to use this for 2 reasons. 1, because this passage is true, and 2, to show the similarity. So students frequently overuse direct quotations in taking notes, and as a result, they overuse quotations in the final research paper. Probably only about 10% of your final manuscript should appear as directly quoted matter. Therefore, you should strive to limit the amount of exact transcribing of source materials while taking notes. Okay, cool. So 1, that's a pretty good point. It's going to sound weird, but over 60, probably, I usually have 60%, over half of your paper should be from you. It should be your own, paraphrasing, examples, points, that kind of stuff. And you want to make sure when you're pulling from outside material, whether it's summarizing, paraphrasing, or quoting, that outside material, about 1/3 of it is actually quote worthy or should be quoted. So when you're looking at when you're doing that math, it actually comes down to about 10%. So you can kind of look through a paper and tell, if you're seeing quote, 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 it's too much, because more than half should be from you. and of outside material, you want more of it to be in your own words and only what is necessary and what you're using for specific reasons that we covered to be quoted. So I'm going to explain what this one means. So this first point here, students take notes too much in their own words, like, you know, copy and paste kind of style, and that's why they quote too much in the final paper. So, I mean, really only about 10%, the second point, about 10% should be, you know, in your own words, or sorry, about 10% should be quoted, and the rest either paraphrased or, you know, summarized. And the way to kind of help with that is to take notes in your own words. So, students have too many quotes in the final paper, which should really be about 10%, but they often, you know, directly copy their notes, and that causes the problem. So if you take notes in your own words, it helps with that. See what I did there? That was in a different order. I did it twice. I just explained what it meant. That's what you want to do. Just be able to explain what it means. So there are 3 main points, like students take notes in their own words, so they quote too much in the final paper. It should really be about 10%. You should really try to take notes in your own words to help out with that. Okay, remember that. We're going to practice with this in a minute. Students often use too many direct quotations when they take notes, resulting in too many of them in the final research paper. See, 1, you can see where I switch stuff out, just like exact like phrases and things. 2, this doesn't sound as good as this one. This sounds like they were trying to pull in some synonyms to switch it up. Like it reads that way. It's choppy. It's horrible. Problem 2, patchworking. Super common, especially in annotated bibliographies. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So direct like patchwork plagiarism. So when the writer copies material from different sources, or several locations in the same text. So like look at an article and for your summary, copy like the thesis and copy and paste like the main points. And then make no attempt to like just rearrange it a little bit and make no attempt to cite it. Or copy like you're writing a paper and like, let's say the paper is I do tomorrow. And so you go to this article and you copy and paste this passage, you go to this article and copy and paste this passage, you go to this article, copy and paste this passage, and maybe like rearrange a little. You could cite some of it, but you know, we said that deliberate plagiarism is when you use anything and you don't, like anything you're supposed to cite and you don't. So if you attempted to cite, if you patchworked it and you attempted to cite everything, the reader would clearly be able to see that you didn't write any of it. You pieced it together from other places. And that's a huge problem because you didn't actually write any of the paper. It's just so, and that's why it's called patchwork. You're literally like taking chunks from different places and sewing a paper together, as opposed to writing a paper and using sources. The sources are the paper, and that's a problem. So just kind of be careful about that. Here's kind of how it could look like. So this is using Turnitin, and I believe you're using VeriCite with Canvas, which works basically the same way, but you know. So this is 90% similar. Ooh, that's a problem. So this is not an anti-bibliography. This is an essay, but here's what it would look like. Like this is obviously like a common phrase, so it wouldn't matter if this popped up as similar. But this is an issue, and this chunk here is an issue, and this chunk here is an issue. You notice there's literally no like attempt to cite any of this material, but it comes from these places. And you could kind of see how this goes. Like this has literally just been like pieced together from different places. Maybe copied and pasted, maybe switched a couple of words out, but not any attempt to cite it. This person clearly wanted the reader to think that this was information from their head, that they wrote this in their own words, and they did not. Patchwork example 2, this is an annotated bibliography. So you can't see this on here, but this is like where they were talking about the author. This is an old one. And this is where we're talking about the summary. And you can see some of the summary is okay, but what's problematic here is that, is you have this, and all of this are from the same place, probably the article itself. So it doesn't seem like this person actually summarize the article for themselves at all. They pieced it together using the article that they're summarizing, which again is very problematic. And again, like you'll notice this, like sometimes your citations will pop up, like common phrases and citations are going to pop up as similar. That's fine. It's stuff like this that's problematic. I want to dispel a myth before I let you go. I've had people say before that they were told like just to look at the similarity match, like the big picture for the paper, and that is incorrect. It is about crossing your T's and dotting your I's. You could have an entire paper that's pretty well cited, and if you have one passage that you made no attempt to cite that's clearly copied and pasted, that's plagiarism. And so you want to make sure that you're really checking things. Like, it is not just about the big picture similarity number. It is about how you worked with your sources and cited things in each instance that you used a source throughout the paper. So just kind of be aware of that. I hate to, that's the last point I want to make. I know that's like a super like terrible way to end this, but you have an activity where you're going to go and upload your draft to VeriCite and get a report back so you can actually see how it looks, like with your annotated bib, how it's going. If you have any like chunks that look too similar, so you can see, you know, when you're putting things in your own words, how things are going. And if you either notice on your own or notice from that report that things are pretty similar and they're not so much in your own words, it lets you know kind of for yourself what you need to go back and work on. And if you have any questions, people always have lots of questions about plagiarism, and it's perfectly okay to